to analyze our mistakes. And then it will help us to to take up right knowledge. Upanishad helps us to have right knowledge about things. This is the second point we discussed, that our own experiences are used as data. Then the third thing is that I gave the example of a tree running in the opposite direction. So that example we have to remember, that is the example of our relative experience, which we think that real, but that is not ultimately real. Then the fourth one is that if we want to know that our experiences are relative, then we have to change our location. When we are sitting in a running train, then we will always see that the static trees are running, because this movement of the train on which we are sitting, that is being superimposed on the static trees. That is what we are seeing. We are not seeing the fact. So if we change our location, then that will help us to understand what is real, what is unreal. And the fifth point we discussed is that consciousness is not a byproduct of matter. Rather, after our analysis is over, we will see, and we will rather discover, that the consciousness is the foundational reality behind the changeful matter, changeful phenomenon. Consciousness is the foundational reality. So we gave the example, that is the sixth point, example of the gold and ornaments made of gold. They are not different, but there is a lot to discuss about it, and Upanishad uses that, particularly in respect of proving the unreality of name and form and reality of the thing behind them. So these are the few points we discussed last time elaborately. Now I would like to go to the essence of the Mandukya Upanishad in short before I begin with the first chapter. The whole Mandukya Upanishad, some other details about it which are very important to know. Now, statistically, there are 12 mantras in the Upanishad proper, and there are 225 karikas. Karikas means commentaries in the form of verses. Commentary means explanation or interpretation of the mantras. And these karikas are written by Gaudapada, who is the guru of Shankaracharya's guru. So Shankaracharya's guru's guru, he wrote these karikas, 225 karikas, to explain the subject matter or theme discussed in the Mandukya Upanishad proper. And this is the smallest of all the 10 major Upanishads. We call them major Upanishads because they have been commented upon by Shankaracharya. There are so many Upanishads. About 108 Upanishads I have in a book. So many of them I have read, but this is the smallest of all the major Upanishads. It has got 12 mantras, but still it is very important. And the logic which has been used here is really very difficult. But we will try to see that we understand it. Now, why is this Upanishad important? In the words of Shankaracharya, it is important because he says, Sarva Vedartha Sara Sangraha Bhutam. Because this Upanishad contains the essence of all the Upanishads. He uses the word Vedanta. Actually, Vedanta means Upanishads. When we were reading in our training center, we were reading the preliminary books of this non-dual philosophy. There we had a book called Vedanta Sara. There the word Vedanta has been defined this way: Vedanto Nama Upanishad Praman. Vedanta means the Upanishads. So they have been used as the references there. So they are called Vedanta. Actually, the word Vedanta means that the end of knowledge. It sometimes means the end of the Vedas, but some Upanishads are there which occur in the middle of the Vedas. So Vedanta means the end of our search, of our knowledge. So now a word of caution has to be uttered, because sometimes it is wrongly said that this Upanishad may generate a dry intellectual conviction. This Upanishad may generate a dry intellectual conviction that the life is a dream and it is meaningless. After we have finished the study of the Upanishad, we may start believing in a life which is meaningless. Actually, that is a very, very wrong concept about this Upanishad. Once Sri Ramakrishna, when he was staying in the Dakshineshwar garden house, so it used to be a place where many wandering monks used to come and stay for a few days or take a halt. So once a monk came there and stayed in that garden house, Sri Ramakrishna heard something bad about that monk, about his behavior. One day this monk came to meet Sri Ramakrishna, and Sri Ramakrishna at point blank asked him, "Hello, you practice Vedanta, and I am hearing so many bad things about you. What is this?" Then this sadhu smiled and told, "According to Vedanta, this world is unreal, so or untrue. So whatever you are hearing about me, they too are untrue." It displeased Sri Ramakrishna very much, because it is a wrong interpretation of Vedanta. Vedanta does not say that everything is unreal in that sense. So it displeased Sri Ramakrishna. We should not make that type of mistake. It does not say that the life is meaningless. It is relative, but it is not meaningless. What this Upanishad is actually does is, and that is the purpose of this Upanishad and also of Vedanta for that matter, it helps us to develop faith in ourselves. It is analyzing our own experiences and analyzing the experiences to show where we are wrong, where we are going wrong about understanding our life. So it helps us to develop faith in ourselves. As you remember Swami Vivekananda's quotation, he said the old religions say that they are atheists who do not believe in God. But the new religion says that they are atheists who do not believe in themselves. They are atheists who do not believe in themselves. This is a completely new interpretation of this word atheist. So we are taught by this Upanishad to believe in ourselves. There are two approaches, as Sri Krishna says, that one can believe in God or one can believe in one's own self. And so the difference is that we are praying to God. We know or think that God is all powerful, all merciful, though we are praying to God. And these people who pray to God, they are termed by Sri Krishna as Jignasu. They too are inquirers. And another group of people, they are called Jnani. Jnani means those people who inquire into the very nature of God. So our inquiry into the nature of God and our inquiry into the nature of our own selves, they are not different inquiries. Because at the end we will see that there is no difference. God is not somewhere outside sitting in the heavens. He is very much there, very much there. The kingdom of heaven is within you. The self is inside us. It is not that the body we have this body, the body has a self. No, it is the self which has a body. This way we have to understand. So this is the belief, but belief in one's own self. And this Upanishad gives us realization, 4 types of realization. First realization is who we are. This Upanishad will teach us who we are. And the second is, this Upanishad will teach us what value this relative world has in relation to our existence. When we know who we are, then we know what is our relation with this world. And this is the relative world. And then we know what our duties, mean dharma, and our rights, means adhikara, would be in this world. And then fourth one is that what way we will be able to realize our own self or the purpose of our life. These are the things the Upanishad will give us. And the Upanishad will prove to us that there is an ultimate, conscious, and hence divine reality. Ultimate, conscious, and hence divine reality behind all these relative experiences or existence. And the individual is, or I am, that conscious reality. I am that conscious reality. So there is an ultimate, conscious, and therefore divine reality behind everything. And the individual, that is I, am that conscious reality. This Upanishad will prove that. How does it do it? Or what is the approach of this Upanishad? It does it through the analysis of the states of ours. The 3 states of ours called waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. They are our own experiences. We are not being told about the experiences of somebody else. It is our own experiences. And our experiences are of 3 states: waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. And thank God that we can do this analysis in the waking state when we are awake. We are not dreaming. This analysis is not in the dream, but we are awake. And in the waking state, what we prove? In the dream state, you cannot analyze things and cannot disprove things. So this Upanishad will take up these 3 states, and also it will equate these 3 states with the 3 letters in Om. We will come to that later on. And actually, the Upanishad is not really interested in the 3 states. We have to remember that it is talking about the 3 states, but it is not really interested in the states. Rather, it uses the states as steps to understand the underlying reality called Atman or consciousness. It uses our experiences to show that all these experiences are validated by an underlying existence or presence. This is what this Mandukya Upanishad will teach us. Sri Ramakrishna narrates a wonderful anecdote. a story. He told that there was a story goes like this, that there was a farmer. He had a wife and a young son. They were a happy family, lived his life happily. One night, this farmer slept, and in the dream, he saw that he has become a king and he has many children, beautiful children. Prince and princess had a wonderful, peaceful kingdom, wonderful subjects. The order of law works well. People lead ethical, moral lives. It's a wonderful experience he was having. And at that moment, he was woken up from his dream by his wife by violent shaking. When he woke up, half woke up from his dream, he saw that his wife is crying and shouting and saying that their only son had died. Now, this farmer did not know what to say, what to do. His wife is crying, saying, "You are so heartless. You are not crying. You are not coming back to this real state." The problem for the farmer was he was caught up in between these two experiences. He was simply caught up in between these two. So he was in no man's land, neither here nor there. And at this stage of disorientation, it is a shock for the experiencer. At this stage of our disorientation, when we are neither there nor here, where are we? In no man's land. This is a real shock for the experiencer. And at this point, if the Upanishad says that none of these two experiences or two states is actually true, then the experiencer will be overwhelmed by the impact of that shock. So you find this logic here. One side, one experience, another side, another experience. He is caught up in between, neither there nor here, in between. And he is confused. And at the same time, the scripture or the authority comes and tells that none of these two experiences or none of these two states really exist. This is a overwhelming shock, and the impact is terrible. And at this point, what happens, when there is no one to guide, we commit suicide. We have nowhere to go. But the Upanishad does not leave us in the lurch. It does not leave us there. It leads you by the hand and shows the reality about you. It will say, neither your dream experiences are true, nor your waking state experiences are true. But you, the experiencer, the farmer, you are true. You are true, and that is why you can say that your experiences are false, unreal, relative, untrue. If you are untrue, you have no right to say your experiences are untrue. You won't have experience. But when you are true, you have the right to say that your experiences are untrue. And the farmer's mind woke up. Suppose we are the farmers and the Upanishad is talking to us. And then what will happen? We will wake up from our waking state itself. Not only from our dream state, but we will wake up from our waking state itself. Then we are awakened. Then and then only we are awakened. When we wake up from our waking state, and then only we are awakened. That is the awakened state. I try not to lose the subject in the web of debates or polemics or technical words or unintelligible language or intricate reasoning, because that would defeat our purpose. Shankaracharya himself says in the Viveka Chudamani, Shabda Jalam Maharanyam Chitta Vibhramakar. The network of these words, they're like dense forest. You don't know which way to go to get out of the forest. You are caught up in that. Similarly, in the Mahabharata, it is said that all these types of intricate logic and difficult language, that is Vacho Viglapanam Hita. Mahabharata says, Upanishads also say that Vacho Viglapanam Hita. It brings disgrace to a communicative language if you fail to communicate such grand truth about life. So these are few points we have to remember. And then we see that we have told that this Upanishad has got 4 chapters or prakaranas. They call them prakaranas. There are 4 chapters. The first chapter is called Agama Prakarana. This is the chapter where the Upanishad proper is included. The 12 mantras of the Upanishad and 29 karikas or explanatory verses are there in this first chapter. And the second chapter is called Vaitathya Prakarana, means it shows the illusoriness or relative experience of the phenomenon. It has got 38 verses. And the third chapter is called Advaita Prakarana. It speaks about non-real reality. It has got 48 verses, commentaries. And then the last one is called Alata Shanti Prakarana. This, it will end our repeated birth and death. That is the idea. Now, those who are a bit academically interested, I will give you a very small point. It is a small, slight deviation from our talk, but since we have not begun the first chapter in detail, so let me tell you one thing, that Gaudapada, who has written this Karikas, extensively uses Madhyamika Buddhistic dialectics, means reasoning, in the second and third chapters. So this should not be surprising that the echoes of philosophical thought in India have been found in Hegel's theory of thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. Gaudapada came several centuries after Buddha, and by that time there had been much interaction and synthesis between Buddhism, Buddhistic and Vedic thoughts. So it is sometimes difficult to distinguish the two argumentations separately, distinguish between the two. Therefore, it is the changefulness of the relative experience and the momentariness of this world of the Sunyavadins or Madhyamikas, that is Nagarjuna who championed that theory, there will be much similarity. So therefore, and Shankaracharya endorsed these ideas of his guru's guru very much in the Brahma Sutras, in the Viveka Chudamani, in this Upanishad also. And that is the reason many people, many so-called scholars call Shankaracharya Prachanna Buddha. Many of people here have heard this name. Prachanna Buddha means a hidden Buddhist or a disguised Buddhist, like that. But that is not true. That is not true. Because Swami Vivekananda has said that Buddha was a great Vedantist. That is Swami Vivekananda's assessment. For Buddhism was really only an offshoot of Vedanta or Hinduism. Buddha made the analysis and Shankara made the synthesis out of it. That is what is the assessment. And that is also true. This is a big study, but anyway, the Buddhistic Madhyamika or Shunyavada interpretation does not include a very positive reality because Buddha himself kept silent about it. He said that I don't say that it is there, don't say that it is not there, I don't say that it is both. So that is the interpretation of Maya according to Vedanta. So the word Prachanna Buddha, that is not, this phrase is not correct. Because at the end there is a reality in the argumentation, and as Sri Ramakrishna has said, the idea is that Buddha wanted to give stress on the unreality of this world, and Shankaracharya or the Upanishads gave stress on the reality of Brahman. So this is the difference. Giving stress on, one is giving stress on unreality of the world, another giving stress on reality of Brahman. This is the same thing actually. That's the difference in giving stress. Now I will take up the first chapter. It is called Prathama Prakarana and called Agama Prakarana. Agama means the Upanishad or Veda, and this chapter contains the Upanishad proper. So here there are first five Upanishad mantras do Atma Vichara. It analyzes or take up the Atman and argues about that. And the rest mantras do Omkara Vichara. First five about Atman and the rest about Omkara. First chapter has got these 12 mantras, and beginning five mantras do Atma, talk about Atman, the self, and the rest mantras, 7 mantras, talk about Omkara. So now what is this Atma Vichara? It says that Atman is consciousness. It is not only conscious, it is consciousness itself. And it has the following characteristics. That is why we will know that how it is different from the relative reality. Reality is relative in the waking state. In the dream state, the relative is deceptive. So there are three realities. One is called relative reality, another is called deceptive reality, and the third one is called absolute reality. So consciousness has got some characteristics by which we know that it is not relative. So consciousness or Atman is not a part, product, or property of the body. That is the first thing we have to remember. This is the axiom that consciousness or Atman is not a part of the body, not a product of the body, not a product of matter, a part of matter, not a part of matter, and not a property of the matter. Matter is not made of by consciousness. Then second characteristics. It is a distinct entity which pervades the body and makes the body active. Otherwise, the body is dead. Number three, it is not limited by the boundaries of the body. So it is limitless. It is not limited by the boundaries of the body. Like we have water taps throughout the house. If we open one water tap, we get water. But this water is not limited by that tap. We can get the same water from another tap somewhere. So this one single water tap does not limit the water. So the body does not limit the consciousness, the self. And the fourth is very important, that this Atman, this consciousness continues to survive the death of the body. All these four characteristics will be analyzed again when we come to the example of gold and ornaments. We'll take it absolutely. So these are the characteristics of the self or consciousness or Atman. And now we go for the Atma Vichara. So what is the Atma Vichara? Atma Vichara, I am the consciousness spoken about. I am the consciousness that lives in the body, is not limited by the boundaries of the body, that makes the body active. It is not part and parcel of the body, property or product of the body. So I am that consciousness. Well, we have accepted this action. Then what is my relation with this world, including the body-mind complex? What is this relation? And this is presented by the Mandukya Upanishad. I am consciousness. What is my relation with this world? Now let us take up the following argument. I will go very slowly because these are the fundamental teachings of Vedanta, non-dual Vedanta and Vedanta. And here in this Upanishad, they have been very, very methodically presented. Please try to walk with me. Please try to walk with me with undivided attention. The logic is simple because we shall analyze our own experiences with the help of this logic. Our own experience. So this logic is simple. So now how do we know this world? That is a simple way. How do we know this world? We know objects in this world. We are the knowers and there are objects to be known. And we use knowledge to know it. And how do we know that the object exists? So the answer is, this is logical, that the existence of any object in the world can be proved only when the object becomes a known or knowable object. The existence of an object will be proved by the fact that it is a known object or it is a knowable object. It may not be known at this moment, but it can be known afterwards. It may not be known by me, but it can be known by others. Then the existence of the knowledge is proved. Suppose there is an object which can never be known at any time by anyone, then we won't accept the existence of that object. So it is not said that in how many years it will be known. It is said that it should be known by anyone at any time. So knowability. So the existence of an object depends on its knowability. prameyatvam, that is in Sanskrit. So what we have seen, that the existence of any object will be proved because of its knowability. It is either known now or can be known later. Known now by me can be known later by somebody else. But to be known, or any object becomes knowable only when there is a knower. Knowability is the proof of an object. This is what is the first argument. Second argument is, any object becomes knowable only when there is a knower to know it. Otherwise, what is the object? Therefore, the existence of an object depends on its knowability. The existence of an object depends on its knowability, and the knowability is possible when there is a knower. Existence of an object depends on its knowability, and the knowability is possible when there is a knower. So what happened? Object, knowability, and knower. So the existence of an object depends upon a knower. Existence of an object depends upon a knower. And every object, therefore, has got a dependent existence. If the knower is not there, the object does not exist. If the knowability is not there, the object does not exist. So every object is dependent on somebody's existence. So subject's existence is there. So every object has a dependent existence. Now to give a simple example, that the moonlight is there, but the moonlight shining my face at night, shining on my face at night, is a dependent moonlight, derivative, this effulgence. Because if there is no sun, then there is no moonlight. So the moonlight depends on the existence of the sun. So therefore the moonlight has a dependent existence. It is exactly like that. And the existence of an object depends on its knowability, and the knowability depends on the existence of the subject or the knower. So every object has a dependent existence. And the technical word for this dependent existence is called relative existence, or mithya. It is called mithya. So every object is relative or mithya because every object will disappear in time. Relative. So they're dependent on time, their knowability, all these things. And then now Mandukya will say that knower also has to be questioned. A knower comes into existence only when the knower chooses to know. I will be called a knower when I would decide to know a thing. Otherwise, I am not knower, I am observer, I am sitting, I am witness, I may not be witness, I am keeping my eyes closed. So when I choose to know something, then I will be called a knower. If I choose to do something and start doing that, then I will be called a doer. And when I am sleeping, am I active as a knower? In sleep, I am not active as a knower, like in the waking state. Because I do not operate by intellect or sense organs there. In the waking state, sense organs, I do not operate them there. So I do not choose to know in sleep. In the sleep state, I cannot choose to know. Therefore, I am not the knower in the sleep. Therefore, I am not the knower in the sleep. Only in the waking state, when I choose to know, then I become the knower. Therefore, see, I did not choose. So I did not become the knower there. So the validity of me as the knower, the validity of the knower in the sleep also depends on me, the conscious principle. So the knower also has a relative existence. So the knower also is a temporarily existent entity. And therefore, the knower is not a knower by itself. So the knower is also a relative existence. That is therefore is mithya or relative. Now both the subject and object have become relative because both of them have a dependent existence and they are dependent on me, I, the conscious principle, who am neither the knower by myself nor I am the object, knowable object. This will be much clearer when we go a little bit further. Now Mandukya says, I, the consciousness alone, I, the consciousness alone am functioning as the knower and the known. I am the conscious principle. I am functioning as the knower means subject and the object. So we can say that the essence of the knower and the known, subject and object, the essence of subject and object is I. I am the essence of the subject and object, and Vedanta calls it witness. I am the witness of the subject, witness of the object. When the subject is knowing the object, I am the witness. And because of me, this is happening. Now we will come to the nice analogy which we used earlier, that there are some ornaments like a earring, a bangle, and a chain. A earring, chain, or a necklace, suppose. So now look at this example. The earring has a name. It is called earring. Has a form. It is round. Round. And it has a utility. Nama Rupa Vyavahara. It has a utility. So it is round, it has a shape, so Akara, Rupa, and Nama, it is called earring, and it is used on the ears. So this is called earring. Similarly, I have a necklace. It has a name, it has its own form, Rupa, and it is used around my neck. So there's a utility is there. Similarly, the bangle, it has a form, it has a name, and it has a utility. I'll put on around in my wrist, around my wrist. Now, these name and form, do they belong to this gold? Earring, then necklace, and the bangle, they are all made of gold. Now, how many do we have here? There are three ornaments. So they have different names and they have different forms and they have different utility. So they are different from each other because their names are different, their forms are different, their utility could be different. So they are different from each other. Then what happens? But all of them are made of the same gold. All of this, they are made of the same gold because they are all made of the gold. Now the question comes, do we count them as four? That we have a earring, a necklace, and a bangle, three, and gold, four. Do we count them as four? Do we count them as four? No, no. And the truth, that is a mistake. That is a mistake that we don't count the gold. That is the mistake. Because it is gold which is true. The earrings, we can melt all the ornaments and get our gold. The ornaments, their name, form, and vyavahara means utility will not be there if there is no gold. But the gold can remain without these ornaments. Without these three, gold can remain without these three, but they cannot remain without gold. Count that fourth. Count that as fourth because it is uncountable. It is uncountable. For us, we won't count gold as separate entity. But when you realize you see only gold there, no ornament, nothing. Sri Ramakrishna gives the example. He says, the child goes to the shop with the father. And the shop has got different shapes, like an elephant, a pig, a mouse, a deer, like that. And they are all made of sugar. For a child, they are really interesting figures. They're wonderful figures. The child will be in trance to take which one to take. So the child will say, I will eat this elephant, I will eat this rabbit, I will eat this, that, or the father tries to distract his attention and tries to take him away because the father knows they may appear to be different animals, but they are in reality sugar. They are in reality sugar. If we are able to come out of our childish knowledge about this world, have the real knowledge about the reality, then we will not be caught up by the wonderful shapes, names, and forms and utilities. We will be able to find that fourth, which cannot be counted. That is why Upanishad here brings the example of the states. Three states: waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. These are three states. But they are states of that consciousness. They are different names, forms, they are ornaments made of the same gold. So beyond these three states, Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti, And the fourth one is called Turiya. Turiya is called fourth, Chaturtham. Turiya actually not the name used by the Upanishads. It has been supplied by Gaudapada Acharya, the commentator. But the name is fourth. Fourth, they cannot give it their name as a state. It is not a state. It is a stateless consciousness. All our experiences in the waking state, dream state, or deep sleep state, and the experiencers like waker, dreamer, and sleeper, they are all dependent on this fourth, which is the conscious principle, which is the gold behind all these ornaments. Ornaments are not true. Vacharambhana vikarnam adhyayam mrittika vityeva satyam. Upanishad says that they have just name and form, these are words used. And vikara, they are just like the shapes. But the truth behind them is that conscious principle. And the Upanishad will say, that is you. You will never lose yourself, even when the names, forms, and utilities are gone. You are never lost, because that is you. That is the truth about you. Know that and be immortal and free. That is the message given in this Upanishad. I will stop here. We will take up things in detail later on again. But this is the message the Upanishad will try to deliver to us, to make us immortal, to get freedom from all these confusions, and to be free. That is the message we get from this Upanishad. Thank you very much.